Hello, welcome to Radical Democracy. I'm Marianne Franzese Chasin. Today, the host, Maddie Cheers, is away. She's on the West Coast. Maddie, we send our love, our greetings, our thoughts, and hopefully we will be able to fill your seat today. So I am founder and principal of Spark Elementary in Lindenhurst, New York. I'm here with my co-founder and sister, Rosalie Franzese Napolitano. Hi, Ro.
Hi, Mia.
How are you today?
Doing good.
Did you make some pasta for lunch?
No, Grandma did.
What kind?
Pasta bolognese.
Oh, I missed the pasta bolognese, but I'll get to it after the show, hopefully. So Rosalie is our director of curriculum. She has developed actually our very own Spark curriculum. And today we're talking about what does it mean to really create an inspired education, and also like why go to private school on Long Island when public schools are out there. We all pay a lot of taxes, and what is in fact happening in our public schools that is making people turn to private schools. So our commitment at Spark is we are an education for an inspired life. That's like a hefty mission. And when we think about what does it mean to have an inspired life, actually, I'm going to give you our phone number here, 516-945-9099. We'd love to hear from you. What does it mean to have an inspired life? What does it take to have an inspired life? Not just an inspiration, but to sustain that feeling of inspiration throughout your life. And we've been doing this now for 8 years.
Yes.
We started out as Kiddistine Montessori School, and last year, after 7 years of on-the-job research, really, in some of the innovative programs we were running, we rebranded and renamed ourselves Spark. And part of why we chose the name Spark was because parents would come to us on their interviews, and one of two things they would say often, right, Ro?
Yes.
One is, I don't want my child to lose his or her spark for learning, or,
They've lost their spark already.
and can we help them get it back? So when we heard this, Rosalie and I started to think hard and long about what parents were trying to convey to us. What is that spark that they are talking about, that they see in their child, or that they once saw in their child and now see the absence of that? And when I think of that, I think like that is the divine within the child. That is the spark of life that they come in with. It's attached to their mission here on earth. It's attached to their holy, sacred being. And what do we do to them? What happens that starts to dim? I don't know, Ro. What do you think when you hear that, when you heard parents saying they've lost their spark?
Yeah, it's so sad. I do. I think it's their sense of belief in themselves that's gone, and the feeling that they can't do something, that they're not good enough, they're not smart enough, they're not able to do it. Why try? So I think it just taps into that system, to their belief system in themselves. And also I think it's also being not feeling that they're loved or cared about, like in the school system, or believed enough in that they could do whatever, if you have someone backing you up and supporting you in a good way, believing that they can get through any obstacles or if something is difficult. And also too, I think happiness. I think also just having joy from learning, and I think learning something. And like I know for me, my inspiration of teaching is seeing joy in the children learning. So if they're laughing or they're smiling or they're getting it or they're the happiness they have within it, then it brings that makes me want to do more for them. Like it's such a I love to see them so happy when they're learning. And I think that's so important.
I've absolutely seen that firsthand with you, which is it is a reciprocal process. So you are breathing life into curriculum, and part of the life and language of love for children is fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Enjoyment, spontaneity. And as they enjoy it, they give you back so much of your spark and a sense of who you are and who you're meant to be as a teacher. And I think that part is critical, the relationship between teacher and student.
Yes, and it's also, I have to say, it's also again that joy of seeing that their faces when they get something that's hard for them and they're learning it, and again the joy that you have as a teacher saying, "Wow, they got this," okay. And if they don't have it, we have to figure out another alternative way for them to get it, which is so important too. So, and I think, really in our school especially, if a child is not getting something, it's not the child's fault. It's really us as teachers that we have to figure out another alternative route to really help that child understand the concept or whatever we're teaching. It's not their fault. It's not that they're lazy, or if it's not that, they just, if they're not getting it, then we have to teach another modality of a way for them to get that, aha, I got this feeling, to bring joy again. And then they build this confidence in themselves as well.
Well, one of the things that you did, Rosalie, and as we were setting up our procedure for enrollment and for acceptance, you took a very strong stand and said, we are not going to give any student who is interested in coming to our school an academic test to determine their worthiness of being here.
That's right.
And you received some objections about that because as we were meeting as a team and talking about it, the question was, well, don't we have some academic criteria or standard? And your answer, and I just think this is part of radical education, was no. If there is a child who cannot learn or is at a lower academic level, we will get that child to improve. We
Yes.
will figure out a way, and that child will be one of our greatest teachers. Radical. It's a revolutionary thought to say this child who is testing so way below the standards is actually one of our greatest teachers right now, and we are going to meet that child with that level of reverence of we are going to find a way to reach you. All this means is that you can't be reached in the traditional way.
Yeah, that's it. That you summed it up. That's 100% right. I'm not afraid. We're not afraid to. Every child can learn. In my opinion, every child can learn. So we just have to figure out the right way that works for that child. And it's not only, it is a big part of it is the right type of curriculum that you have to, in order for them to learn whatever style that helps them. But another major part of it is the belief, because every child knows when you're vested in them, and they know if you believe in them, and if you give them loving, kind support and encouragement and create a stress-free, anxiety-free atmosphere, anything is possible, because you cannot have that anxiety. They have to feel comfortable with the teacher feeling that, oh gosh, you're with me in this. You're going to help me with this. You believe in me. I know I'm great. I know I can do this. I have such potential. And that's again from, the teacher as well. So it's two things. It's curriculum, and it's also the relationship.
It's all about relationship.
Exactly.
And this positive mindset. Now, this, and you would know better because you've spent 20 years in the public school system. One of the downfalls in the public school system right now is that teachers are being evaluated based on how well their students do on standardized tests. So that means if a teacher has a student who is below level in her class, immediately she will meet that child with a sense of inner anxiety, like, uh-oh, I've got to get you up to par, or you're going to make me look bad. I'm going to be evaluated by this. That becomes a petri dish for infection. And what do I mean by that? I mean by basically polluting, corrupting this process of we're in this together and we're going to figure it out and we will grow together. And I think it is criminal what is being done to teachers, because I actually haven't met a teacher that didn't go into teaching because it was truly his or her inspired work.
That's so true. And it's not fair to the teachers, because even if the child, let's say, is a slower learner and the teacher has worked with that child throughout the whole year and has made a tremendous amount of progress, and then they have to take this test, it doesn't measure all of the growth that they did do this year. But instead, if the child didn't do so well on that test, but no one's looking at how much progress that teacher has helped that child achieve, and it doesn't. And even some children do great every single day, and tests aren't their thing, and tests cause anxiety, and it doesn't show their true nature of all the work that a teacher does within a classroom within that year. It's a lot of pressure, unnecessary pressure.
And it just
for the
creates
teachers
very
and for the
stressful
students.
relationships.
Yes.
The same with now our parents have become a very powerful group for public schools, really developing this movement to opt out of standardized testing. And now what New York State is coming down with is, if not enough students take the test, if they opt out of the test, then the schools are going to start to get punished for that. So
Wow.
again, even this partnership, the empowerment of the parent to say, this is not good for my child. This is not helping him or her. Nope, we are not listening to you. So relationships become very dysfunctional because nobody is really listening to each other. So we also made the decision that we won't do any standardized testing. We teach children how to take tests. They take tests.
Yes.
But we are not going to be under this idea of creating standardized minds, not if we're looking to create inspired minds. So back to this question of inspiration. What does it mean, education for an inspired life? Now, people think that when they hear that we're kind of soft on our kids, right? We're coddling. And yet, if you think about it, to truly live an inspired life, it takes a tremendous amount of resilience to sustain that. And it takes a very, very strong skill set to be able to continually be in the question and in the process of what, in fact, is keeping that spark alive in me, and how do I manifest that in the world. It's an alternative route, right? And so we asked our preschool kids, what is inspiration? So we have a Montessori method class, and we have a Reggio Emilia method. And the Reggio Emilia is based in really creating the artist's mind. So the artist's mind is very much about drawing in inspiration and then creating. So our teacher asked the students, what is inspiration? She would start each day with an inspiration, but then after a while she said, so now that we've been working with inspiration, what would you say it is? And I have their definition because it is so interesting. So they said, one child says, it's a sparkle. Inspiration is a sparkle. And then another child said, well, it's a sparkle plus imagination.
Oh,
right?
that's great.
And then another one said, well, it's a sparkle plus imagination plus an idea,
Oh, I love that.
right? And then someone said, well, we can't forget it also includes a feeling of love.
Oh,
So
that's
inspiration,
fantastic.
a sparkle plus imagination plus an idea plus a feeling of of love. And so then the teacher said, well, what does all of that add up to? Like, what does that equal? Because you're saying
Right.
idea plus imagination plus sparkle plus a feeling of love. And then they said, well, to go make something, right?
Oh.
Go create, the call to action. And that level of work to find the sparkle, to have that one little bit of the moment, to then let that spark your imagination and develop new ideas with it and move with love, is all about taking positive action in the world. Go create. And so when we say education for an inspired life, it's really raising citizens with the tools to go out and do something good.
That's right.
Take action that makes the world better. And when I think about what inspires me to keep going with Spark, right? We certainly know money isn't our inspiration.
Yeah, that's true.
That's for sure.
Yep.
What does keep us going? What keeps our teachers going? And for me, it really is connected to a feeling of love. They're right.
Me too. Same with me.
And a love for the children
Exactly. That's
and a concern for the world they're going to inherit 20 years from now. So maybe that's part of my imagination, how I imagine the world's going to be and what we need to do to prepare them for that world. And part of it is developing strong academics, not letting any child fall through the cracks.
right. I think that's for me too. That my inspiration too is the love of the children, and also, I guess, to take care of them, to make sure that they are going to be the strongest readers and writers out there, and to get their math, and to to get that. I don't know, like you said, like just to get them really strong and have such a strong foundation to go out there and
Have
confidence
confidence.
in themselves, and also have a joy of learning too. Like that's my inspiration to that, to love it as well, like to love their learning. So I look at them and I'm like, no, I have an obligation to them. Like I have a strong obligation that whoever enters our building, I'm going to make sure that they are going to go down the right path and not fall behind, and to see to it,
Well,
They-
and that's
they
part
need.
of what you do with our teachers as director of curriculum. What I see happening there is we follow New York State Common Core, which is a very in-depth curriculum. It develops
is.
a very strong thinker and problem solver. Part of the problem is that curriculum is rushed to meet standardized testing. We don't rush it. But the other part is that it is taught in a very lifeless way. And
So
so
true.
when I hear your planning session with the teachers, over and over, the team of teachers are brainstorming, how do we wake this up? How do we breathe life into it? Inspire. Isn't inspired the inhale of breath? How do we wake it up, bring it to life, get the kids excited about it? How do we spark? Every lesson begins with the spark.
And you know what? It's so true. And we have such an amazing group of teachers who work with us, even teacher aides who work with us. Like just they do. And they also get excited about the planning, which I love to see. Like they get excited when their children are learning something and get it. They do so much research and thinking of other things. They bounce off of each other to get ideas from each other. And it's just we're so lucky in that regard that they all do have that inspiration, that wanting to make their lessons powerful and inspired.
Right.
And they work hard at doing that, because it takes time to think of things, but it's not I should say it takes time, but it's not hard because it's joyous in the process as well.
Right, and actually allowing and making time in a teacher's schedule to do that kind of thinking.
Yes, that's right.
And planning, and to bring part of what inspires each of our teachers as individuals. So I think about like our Montessori room. We have Montessori certified teachers, yes.
Yes.
But our lead Montessori teacher, she is a Montessori certified.
Shout out to Anna.
Anna Casella,
Anna Casella.
20 years.
Woohoo.
We'll bring you some leftover bolognese.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
We love you, Anna.
But Anna is a scientist.
Yes.
Her
Amazing.
degree is in science. And so she brings the mind of a scientist to the Montessori room because that's what inspires her. So she's teaching the kids about the circulatory system. And the next thing I know, she has a chicken heart she's dissecting.
Yes,
I'm like,
she
Anna,
does.
what are you doing? She brings it in, and they're looking at a chicken heart, and they're asking questions. And everybody is starting to develop a curiosity as a scientist would develop a curiosity. So none of these little kids are going, ew, a chicken heart. They're like, oh, a chicken heart. What is that? How is that like our heart? How is it different than our
And now they're
heart?
begging her to bring in brains and
Are
chicken
they?
feet.
I didn't know.
Yes, they do. They wanted to bring in a brain.
Inspiration.
And Anna said she could get one.
She can get a brain?
Yes.
She said, oh,
Said
no.
she can.
oh, what's going on for Anna? But that kind of spark, when a teacher is able to bring who she is, what inspires her into her work, then it elevates the vibration of the classroom. Right. And a big piece of what we're looking at is not just the people, but the rooms too. The aesthetics of the room is in fact another classroom, is another teacher rather. So the Montessori room is infused with the scientific process. And the legacy of Montessori is Maria Montessori was what?
A doctor.
A doctor.
Yes, that's right.
She went in, like you, she must be one of your muses. She went into, at the time, the children in Italy who could not learn were put in institutions and locked away. And she said, no, you don't lock kids away. These kids can learn. They need another method. And she started experimenting like a true scientist. So her hypothesis was, okay, if we can't do it the traditional way, let's go through the sensorial system. Let's instead appeal to the child's sense of smell, sight, touch, taste, and see if we can begin engaging them. And sure enough, through experimentation, she came up with different tools, techniques, methods, lessons that open the world of learning to these children. So she was a scientist. She was a healer.
Right.
She was a medicine woman. We have Anna, who is from Italy, who is a scientist, who is Montessori certified, who is infusing this room with the sense of, what does it take to be a good scientist? You need to be meticulous. You need to ask questions. You need to follow clean procedure.
That's
you
right.
need to have a respect for process. You need to be more quiet than talk.
That's so true. She's Maria Montessori II. She is. Yay, Anna. Shout out to Anna.
So but again, the point being is, if you are going to take this seriously, if we are going to honor our commitment to develop an inspired life, the level of choice that you and I make, the kinds of decisions we make, must be so ethically on point with our mission. Same with Reggio. So we start the Reggio room, which is all about really developing the artist's mind. Our teacher there, she is an artist, first
that's right.
and foremost. She has her degree from Pratt, her BFA. She comes with a love for the process and an understanding of the aesthetics of creation and of the messiness of creation. So
Yes.
she is able to hold in her beautifully aesthetic room the possibility for chaotic process.
Right, that's so true.
So you
Beautifully
see these
done, yes.
expressionistic pictures
So
that you look
beautiful.
like, and at first it's like, what is that? And then you're like, it's great,
Yes,
whatever
so
it is.
beautiful, the work that they do.
Because it's expressing who they are. And the children take it home, right? So we had one of our 4-year-olds, her mom came in and she said, we're sitting at dinner, and after dinner, my daughter said, I need my crayons and my paper because there is a still life right here
Oh
on
my
the
God,
table.
that's
And she
fantastic.
started drawing her still life. So it inspires them to take it to the next level
Yes.
into their life.
And I had parents too with 4-year-olds was they start discussing different artists at the dinner table. They were
Right.
like, right. They
Like,
mentioned
what?
Right.
Who's
Jackson
the-
Pollock. That's what they said. One of them
Really?
was yes. They were talking and the mom didn't think she knew. She was like, you must think you know somebody by the name. She goes, no, I know who he is. And she started telling all about as an artist, all the qualities.
And that lesson actually came out of one of the kids wanted to just throw the paint on the paper.
Oh.
And so there, the teacher, Amalia, instead of just saying, no, you don't throw paint, she said, there is a kind of an artist who would just throw the paint. I'll teach you more about it.
fantastic.
And then it became a vehicle for expression where the child wasn't shamed
Right.
or made bad or said, no, that's not the way you do it. That's the way you're inspired. We'll find the right way for you to do it. We'll find the way that's safe and that is respectful of the room and others.
It's perfect.
And so it goes. So it starts from the ground up. It starts from that ability. I like what you said when we first started, Ro, about a child can't be afraid.
right.
You know, they really need to be able to have the spirit of trying new things. So the other way we assess, right, for a student who might be a Spark student is our application. We ask the parents to really give us information about what they see in their child. So we ask them things like to list 3 qualities that describe their child or 3 of their child's talents that they see, areas of improvement, ways of contribution. And, on our applications, I have an application right here in front of me, and this is kind of typical. We have here, please list 3 areas of improvement for your child. And this parent wrote, to enjoy school again.
Wow.
To be less leery of trying new things,
That's it. It's all about
To
your
be-
environment.
to have the time to really focus on what she loves.
That's
Wow.
it. That's it.
And there it goes, that there is something. And when we say, what are your child's talent, the same mother says, she is inquisitive, she is a problem solver, and she is naturally resilient. So what happened here? That this child with those natural talents has become leery of trying new things,
Right. Exactly.
doesn't enjoy school. can focus on her areas. So with this application, what happens next is we sit down and we meet with the family and begin a partnership of figuring out what a child needs to keep their level of natural. It's a natural resource, their spark, their
Right.
level of curiosity and love and happiness and enthusiasm for learning alive.
So
Right.
true. Yes, that's
Right.
that sums it all up. Those
And this, and it's we're kind of not alone with that. The other piece is I'm very excited about this piece, and I know you're pretty humble about it. So one of the things that keep you inspired, I've noticed, is that you really like to go to workshops and
Yes.
learn everything that is current in your field really being literacy.
Yes, so true. Yes.
So you've been trained in Wilson, you've been trained in Orton Gillingham, you've been trained in Linda Mubel,
Yes.
you've been certified in reading recovery, you've worked with Teachers College, you've worked with the Australians, right?
NYU, right.
NYU, you have taken everything. And so many of the approaches, the interventions for literacy is for the children who are struggling.
Right.
Would you
correct.
agree?
Yes.
So this year, after a summer of workshops, you came to the table and said, you know what? Maybe it is time for all students to benefit from these interventions, from these methods that are designed for the one-on-one. Can we take this method and bring it to the whole classroom? And you developed this word study program that actually is an integration, right?
Yes, it's an integration. Because one of the things that throughout my years of teaching, I always found that the spelling is a hard thing to go about teaching, of selecting what words to do. Is it meaningful? Do the children forget after they take their spelling test? So things like that. So kind of what I did this year, after a couple of years of me studying all about spelling, I've kind of pulled eclectically from what I thought the best parts of the programs were that I learned about, and put it together in a whole where that each grade is different, but they go along a systematic system of learning how to spell a word, the strategies behind it, like starting out just with, short vowels maybe, but then, moving into syllables, like a sequential order. But it's, again, very multisensory. So there's a lot of tactile things with it, visualizing, writing the words, teaching them how to code words. So I kind of put everything together, trying this year to pilot this and to see the improvements, because it is true, every child needs to know our language and needs to know all the different parts of our language and learn how to spell words. So it's, so we're doing it this year, and it's exciting because I really see a big difference in all the different grades. So it's really based on each grade as they go up the levels, and then they continue on the following year. But they're really learning how to go about understanding, why do you spell a word this way? What is the rule behind that? And it's not, and it's, and they enjoy the coding and they enjoy it. It's not something that they seem that it's a hard task for them. So it's been exciting to see, and I do see a difference in
Well,
the
and
progression.
parents are raving about it. I had one mother come to me who her son is now in 5th grade. He actually is on the autistic spectrum, and he is a strong reader, but could never spell. And she basically had given up on it. And even his resource room teacher spoke to me
Right.
about it, because she said, we had given up on it. And there's this kind of shrug of the shoulders that says, well, now there's spell check. You just type something in the
Right.
computer, it'll spell it for you. This boy, for the first time in his life, is getting it.
Fantastic. He does.
Why? And this is why I think because your approach is a coding approach,
Right.
which his brain thrives on coding. He lives to code. He loves coding, computer coding. So this excited him that there is a code that we're cracking here. So it's baloney that you don't need to learn how to spell.
You
don't need to learn to memorize
Right.
and then forget. To truly break that code of, oh, the English language is such a complex mystery.
Right, and I think that the key is that, which I love about it, is that you're constantly using what you know to get to something you don't know. So it's using known information. It's always revisiting the known information and then raising up the ante a little bit and then adding something new to the known. And then it's kind of like, so then it continues to keep going. So they're always revisiting what they have known and adding something new to it. And that's how the words are getting harder or getting, and also too, when they're learning, a specific new concept, that's when I do pull from all of those different modalities. So maybe it's visualizing, like Linda Mubel does, or maybe it's, trace, cover, copy, avert, that's a technique that Orton Gillingham does. So I kind of pull through, or dictation, that's something, big in all the systems that all the three of them, but to kind of combine that out. And also, too, I have to give a shout out to Jen Scala, who's kind of who is our language arts teacher, who is I'm training her in this program and taking it on and doing
it's
it.
Tremendous
She's doing a lot
amount
of
of
work and
it's
planning.
A lot.
So it's great to have her on board with me doing it.
And to see the positive results. And again, now going back to testing. So our children get tested every week on their spelling.
Yes.
They're doing phenomenally on it. Words that they get wrong, there may be one letter wrong.
Right. Yes.
Which is tremendous in difficult words. Now, getting one letter wrong is, okay, they got the word wrong. But when you're looking at it
Right.
as part of a bigger
Right.
picture of really developing the ability to work with sound and letters and putting that together into spelling a word, there's tremendous success there.
Yes, it is, because we do, we do take such an interest in looking at their spell checks on Friday, as well as our reading lab team, which is Kara and Catherine. They really, they come to me, or they'll come to Jen, and we'll look at them and they'll say, if they're getting this or they're not getting that. And we have, like, specifically this week, there were 3 children who I was concerned about because I saw that maybe they're not getting the specific rule that we were working on. They got like 2 wrong, or some 2 or 3 wrong. But I'll pull those children on Monday and teach them like a mini lesson to make sure that they're getting the concept. So it's not like, okay, you didn't get it, you move on. Like, it's like, if we need to revisit a specific concept again that they're not getting it within the week, then we'll do that again. So it's really, all of these assessments that we give them help our instruction, but also to see if they're mastering. And if not, maybe those children need just a smaller mini lesson to take out separately from them, that if they're not getting it with it.
Right. So it is a personal interest.
Yes, on every child.
In every child. And even like now when you're I head up the whole social emotional learning of the school, right? So when you talk about looking at what is known already to get into the unknown, that is a big piece of our social emotional learning program as well, where the children are at a place where the question is, okay, what do you already know about who you are?
Oh, that's so true.
Right?
Yes.
Who are you?
Yes.
What successes have you had? What do you need to be successful? And how have you expressed that? We know that already from your history. We've marked that. Now let's take that and help launch you into something that may be uncomfortable for you. Because the idea of growing in the social emotional realm is that you have to navigate the discomfort of the unknown. And the
Right.
only way that you feel brave enough to do that
That's true.
is knowing what you already know to be good and strong and successful within you. And so it's all goes back to the same mindset, the same philosophy
So true. That's such a
of,
great point.
of maintaining the spark.
And
Go
and I'm
ahead.
sorry to interrupt, and I also think too that's so true. But I also think too pacing, like you say, like spark inspires. Like, the lessons there's I created them where like there's all these different components in it, but they're quick components that you go through. So it's always keeping them up. It's not like this, during a
let's
lesson.
keep moving.
Let's keep moving. Do this, do that. Let's go here. We're going to go here. Like it gets there. It keeps you going on what you have to do. So again, it's that, inspiration of like, it's just, and then the inspiration of them when they get something right, it gets exciting. Like, oh, I got that. Or they like to be a part of it or come up. It's very interactive.
It's awake.
It's awake. That's what it is.
Let's wake up here.
Yeah, and you have to have
Wokey
a nice
face. Ah.
Yep, and you have to have like a good pace.
Well, and it's interesting because one of the other things that we've really been experimenting with this year is our science program.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So we made the commitment to science 5 days a week for every student in our elementary grades, 2nd to 5th.
Yes.
And having science 5 days a week, what has that awoken?
Oh,
Is
it's
it
amazing.
not like
Amazing.
an amazing phenomenon in the school
Amazing.
that our science teacher, again, a shout out to Chris
Lementina.
Lementina, we love you.
Woo-hoo, love you.
So she has become so inspired by STEAM curriculum. And because I think, again, it integrates all the natural skills of Chris Lementina, right? She's a scientist, she's an artist, she's a mother, has the brain of an engineer. And so the children now, 5 days a week, 1 day experimentation, 1 day research, 1 day engineering, 1 day, more STEAM materials.
They do all the STEAM materials, yes.
So
So it's bringing all of her curriculum. It's the, she brings all this abstract into concrete. Like it's just bringing everything to life, literally. Anything that they're learning, there's always an experiment. There's always a project that goes with it. And also those STEAM challenges that she does too. It's amazing.
and it starts to develop the mind of the engineer, right? So we've talked about the mind of the scientist, the mind of the artist. The mind of the engineer, it's a very interesting way of problem solving because they start out with the question, right? With the problem. Like, so what do we do about this? The next step is to really begin to imagine, brainstorm. This is the work of innovation. It is the work of the future. Once you've done this brainstorming as a community, you start to plan. So one of the things they made is Spark City, where they had to engineer these different buildings that would be in a city. So they had to work together as teams to plan out the construction, the materials, where they would get them, how they would construct it, and then begins the creation process.
Right.
But then the creation process doesn't end there because once you start to create, you fail. Things go wrong. Then from that, you have to figure out and adjust
Yes,
and get
exactly.
feedback. Is this working? Isn't it working? Until you're finally able to come up with a level of presentation. So that kind of enrichment that's happening simply because they're engaged in this kind of thinking 5 days a week,
Yes.
again begins to translate into an inspired life. We face a problem in life. What's the first thing we need to do? We need to sit down with our team and brainstorm. What kind of solutions? Is it feasible to make this happen? How do we create it? How do we move forward? So it's that type of training that can only happen if the commitment is 5 days a week, every day. We're all involved in really working this as a natural system.
Right, and I think also too it sparks up the love of learning, like the love. If these children in elementary are walking away with this love of science, like we have children who don't want to go out for their don't want to leave their to go for their services or what they need, to not to leave science. So it's just this, again, sparking that love of learning, that love of science is amazing to have when you're in elementary school, to know that you love science.
And that science isn't something that's
right.
taught from the textbook.
Right.
You do your once a year science experiment that
Right, the
becomes
project,
so
science
stressful
yes,
on a whole
exactly.
family. So it, again, it is part of the whole. And I do want to go back to something that you said in the beginning too, Rosalie, about happiness, right? Happiness and love. Like, it inspires you to see the kids happy. And when we look at the habits of happy people, right? There's been a lot of research on that lately. There are 5 basic habits. One is the practice of gratitude, like to be grateful for what you have and for what you are accomplishing. The second is a celebration of small victories. The third is making time for mindfulness or meditation. The fourth is good physical exercise every day. And the fifth are small acts of kindness. So those habits have to become part of the character education and the culture of a school.
And that's who we are. Spark equals happy.
It's true. And again, public versus private. The difference is when you're trying to do something on a massive scale, it gets very diluted. And it can be done once in a while. And once in a while will create some sense of happiness, which is great. Mindfulness is starting to come to schools, but again, in little ways. But when you're able to do it in a very concentrated way, you begin to develop masters. Because the culture, the community, the children, the teachers, we all hold each other to a standard of this type of practice. So it's not all, let's be happy. We've got a lot of emotions flying in that school.
Yes.
It's let's be real human beings and practice this and know that whatever feelings we're even holding gratitude for having that feeling and
Yes,
the
that's
ability
so
to
true.
express it in a way that's not going to be harmful or hurtful to anybody else.
It's so true. That is so true.
Right?
Yeah, and I do think, I was just thinking that with happiness and like love, and I think that every teacher, everyone who works in our building with all of our children, they all have like just a strong sense of wanting to make our, wanting for the children to be happy, and such a love and concern for them. Like it's a family. I really feel that they see these children as extended family members. Like you want to make sure if there's a problem with one child in the teacher's truck, we all feel like it's just, we're a network of every teacher knows every child in our building.
Well,
And
that's true
such a
too.
right, and it's like such a concern if even if they're not in their grade or in the younger grade, like you feel for them, or if something's going on, or if there's a problem. Like it's such, again, it's that whole community where it is part of, we're breeding this happiness and this love and trying to, but again, it has to stem from the people who are teaching the children.
And I think that is a really strong piece of what it means to live an inspired life.
Right.
I know, at least for me, I do feel most inspired in community, in
Right.
community that supports a similar mission of good, trying to do good in the world, and to really allow for what it means to be human. So we, some of our service workers who come in to work with our kids will say, "Oh, it's like you do therapy in the hallway." I'm like, it's not therapy.
Right.
It's human interaction.
Right.
So we have a kid in the hallway who is crying or frustrated. Yeah, right in front of everybody. what's going on here? Let's
Right.
express it in a superpower way
Right.
and move on. Let it go. Shake it off. Let's take care of each other that way and be real with each other. And from that comes a warmth. So maybe, oh, this is just occurring to me, like from really taking care of the inner spark, we really do start to develop a fire
Right. That's so true.
that is warm. It's warm. It's
That's so-
alive. It's not cold. It's not metal. It's not robotic. It is breathing.
You know what? That's so true. Because you think of.
Someone calling us?
Oh,
We have a phone
wow.
Oh my
Oh no, it's a miracle. It's a miracle,
Hello?
Marianne.
Hello, who do we have? Do we have a call?
Hello.
Who is this?
Yes. This is Amalia. Mrs.
Oh,
yeah,
Amalia
Reggio.
is our Reggio teacher. Amalia, did you hear we were talking about you?
Yes, I
Yes,
did.
you're
Do you think
fantastic.
that was fair?
Thank you.
Our artist.
Yep, a wonderful artist.
So, Amalia, how do you define inspiration?
How do I define inspiration? Oh my goodness. The kids inspire me. I mean, they come up with the most unique things in my class that actually spark weeks of learning on a particular subject. I think inspiration really does come from your community. And what you were just talking about our community and how we, the teachers really help the students, like therapy in the hallway, or like, you know, what you were saying. One of the hardest emotions that my children deal with, my kids, is like the self-shaming and embarrassment. And I find that even the children in the community help so much with that. Like the other day, one of my students had dropped something on the floor, and she was so embarrassed. But all the kids came over and tried to hug her and make her feel better. And then they went over and did a breathing exercise together. And it just made such a difference.
That's wonderful.
Oh my
Aw,
gosh, that
love
is so
them.
touching. And it is so amazing that children at 4 years old and 3 years old are already carrying a self system that says, oh no, I'm embarrassed, I made a mistake, right? And
It's so sad to see,
right?
you know.
So to think about that, if our children already have that in them, they don't want to make a mistake, they get embarrassed by making a mistake. To be in a community where you do make a mistake and it is met with correction or coldness or reprimand, how like damaging is that?
Right.
Right?
that's
Oh,
so
it's
true.
awful.
It's-
But that's what is so amazing about Spark Elementary is that we comfort our children and we guide them
Yes.
towards a better way of handling these really tough emotions that are so hard to deal with.
And I love hearing that from you, Amalia, as a teacher of our youngest children. Our little kids deal with very big feelings.
Yes.
And they need a lot of support in being able to begin to navigate that, understand it, and find a way to self-soothe and calm down that is healthy and appropriate.
And that's why we added just a little corner in the room that has like comfortable pillows, and
Aw,
you
that's
just
so
sit there and you breathe, and they come up with these great breaths that just like dolphin breath and flower breath. There's so many
I love.
great, unique ideas that they come up with.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Well, and again, that starts with, right, very simple daily mindfulness breathing or techniques that we get out of mindfulness books, but then children will take that and be creative with it. So what you're talking about is now they're creating their own. That's wonderful. That's
Right.
so fun.
And that's true. We had one little girl in your class who the mom videotaped her doing her breathing techniques. She couldn't believe it. She was showing somebody else how that she does her breathing, which is so nice.
Oh, it was so adorable.
Yeah, so adorable, so great. And also too, sometimes children do have so many emotions, and like they'll cry or they'll think something is so sad. Like Marianne, when you did when little boy just came back to visiting his Argentina, his family there, and he was so upset, crying, and then Marianne made him laugh by singing "Don't cry for me, Argentina." And he all of a sudden was hysterical laughing, and he was all better.
Well, because Amalia, you brought him to
Yeah.
us. He was
Was
weeping.
weeping.
We were like, what happened?
And you were like, he misses
Argentina. I'm like, I can't pass this up.
Yes.
Am I Madonna, Patti LuPone? Who are some of the famous
That's right.
Evitas?
So you do make
And
them
then I
laugh.
actually pulled it up on YouTube. He started laughing, and on he went.
But it's like those moments that, right, like you're not telling them, okay, enough, go back, sit down. It's
what
like
are you crying about? It's
stuff,
okay.
and, yeah.
You'll see it.
Right,
Don't worry.
right. It's just so
Exactly,
nice.
exactly. And that is what I just wanted to make sure all our listeners hear is that we really, really focus on empathy and social emotional development at Spark.
Aw, thank you,
Thank you,
Amalia.
Amalia.
So nice having you at Spark.
Yes,
Thank you.
for
Aw.
taking it
Yes,
on.
the first year. It's so
Love our
beautiful.
artists.
It's a beautiful
We do.
school. It's an honor to be there.
Aw,
thank
I love
you.
having you there. Thank you,
And
Amalia.
thank you for
call-
calling
Yes,
in.
thank you. You made our
Oh,
day.
thanks for having
You
me.
are our only call.
Fantastic.
Okay, talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Amalia.
Bye-bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
now. So sweet. So yeah,
right.
Amalia really brings a good point, which is it is a tremendous commitment to the academic piece, right?
That's so true.
The social emotional piece.
Yes.
And then this idea of creating this culture where we really teach what it means to be empathetic, how you set healthy boundaries and create good ethical rules.
That's right.
And feel like there is an ability to have a voice and that you navigate this journey of learning with tools that can really help you move through obstacles. Because the inspired life, I love our life. I love our school.
Yes, me
I
too.
love what we are creating. But it takes tremendous courage, a lot of strength,
Yes.
a very strong commitment to reflecting and evaluating and putting our heads together in how do we remain sustainable and alive in the way that we don't become stagnant, because it's so easy to fall behind with
Right.
the way that the world is evolving. So you're a master teacher. You've written books on literacy, and you are still taking classes and workshops in your field.
But you have to. You just can't. You can't stop. You have to keep seeing what's out there and trying to make your technique better.
Right, and having this eye on, we want to stay current. So that is a big piece of staying inspired. We can get a sort of a formula down, but it will be outdated within a couple of years.
Right. That's so true.
And so this commitment to staying current, to really being in the moment of who our student body is at the moment, right? Because our fifth graders graduate, we get a new class
That's
in.
right.
Children are constantly changing. That kind of commitment to staying really current in the moment and aware ultimately does lead to inspiration. And like I started the hour with, for me, it is a very deeply spiritual commitment to a child and their family when I take on the promise of I will try to keep that spark alive. And if it does start to dim, we will all get on board to figure out how we get that light back, because that is inner divinity. Now, we're not a religious school,
Right, no.
but we do have a commitment to the mind, body, and spirit of
No,
every
that's
child.
so beautifully said. That's right. That's exactly it.
So, Ro, ready to go
job.
have some cannolis? Our Italian dinner is waiting.
Yes.
Bolognese.
Okay.
So, Maddie, we missed you this week. For all those out there, continue to find your inspiration, to ask the question, what inspires me? And to really walk the walk towards that beautiful light of inspiration. And to everybody, a very happy Sunday. Maybe we'll have a snow day tomorrow.
Yes, maybe.
March snow day, March madness.
Right on, sister. Good job.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Take care.